A while ago I heard my friend say, Pinterest is objectively the most productive social media. Now, this came as a shock to me, but at the same time was completely unsurprising. Like many people, he had long set out on a quest to minimize the constant noise and digital distraction of social media. It's easy to label apps like Instagram and TikTok as a waste of time, a dopamine-inducing algorithm that keeps us trapped in endless doom scrolling of low-quality short-form content. Everyone says it. They exclaim that social media prevents us from being present and focusing on what actually matters. They criticize it for shortening our attention spans and making us chronically online. But what was so special about Pinterest that, to him, the adamant social media critic and productivity optimizer, it was some diamond in the rough, some exception to the rule? I love Pinterest as much as the next guy. In fact, I use it almost every day and have multiple boards with hundreds to thousands to tens of thousands of pins, so I can see exactly where this sentiment comes from. It's an incredible tool for gathering references and finding inspiration, whether it be for art, fashion, room decor, crafts, or anything else you can dream of. Now, I want to preface this video by saying that I'm an artist and I primarily use Pinterest for that purpose, and I know that people use Pinterest for other purposes other than creative inspiration. I use it for non-art purposes as well, but a huge chunk of Pinterest audience is artists and other creatives, so that's what I'm focusing on in this video. For creators like me, the app has become a staple of our arsenal, stoking the flames of creativity and kickstarting the artistic process. It's easy to just open the app and instantly feel inspired and creative. But that's the thing. It makes you feel creative. And sometimes, feeling is not the same as actually being. When you think of social media, you probably don't instantly think of Pinterest, but that's exactly what it is. It's a platform that lets users upload content, comment under said content, and DM each other. Although I've never heard of anyone actually using Pinterest DM feature, but I digress. But it feels different from apps like Instagram, specifically because of the intention and purpose behind it. It's much more tailored to you, and its design philosophy is that it's meant to be a mood board of your specific interests, hence the name. It doesn't have the same distractions that an all-purpose social media like an Instagram algorithm has, and people often open Pinterest not just to mindlessly consume content, but to feel inspired by art and to therefore make their own art, whether it be visual art, graphic design, 3D crafts, clothing design, etc. At the same time though, when you're on Pinterest, you're still scrolling through an endless bombardment of content, and while you may feel like it's a more productive use of your time than doom scrolling Instagram Reels, that doesn't exactly make it productive. I mean, the word productive itself insinuates that you're directly producing something into existence. You're creating rather than consuming. That's exactly where the phrase productive social media becomes paradoxical, because how can you be producing while also consuming at the same time? Yes, it may eventually lead to production in the future by virtue of providing inspiration or motivation. But what happens when that undefined distant date becomes more and more obscured? When you supplement creativity and direct action with consumption, this feeling of productivity can actually be a dangerous form of procrastination. There are many videos on YouTube talking about this in the self-improvement space, where endlessly watching self-improvement videos can delay the actual act of self-improvement. The brain feels good and productive by imagining these goals and learning tons of theory, but without actually putting them into practice, nothing changes. The same principle can be applied to creativity. Without actually picking up the pen, and the scrolling on Pinterest isn't going to make you more creative or a more productive artist. Similarly, creating mood boards and vision boards of the perfect lifestyle might motivate you to pursue your goals, but it might also cause you to fantasize about it and romanticize it in place of taking steps to achieve it. In this way, it can ironically be just as harmful as other forms of social media by distracting us from creating, and just like other social media, it is in its best interest to keep you on the app for as long as possible. Why do you think the endless scroll was invented, or why it constantly sends you notifications and emails to keep exploring, or why it seems like every other pin is actually a secret ad trying to get you to click on it? This isn't to say that Pinterest can't lend itself to creative inspiration, but like any social media, it tries its best to prevent you from putting down your phone and actually creating through its very nature. encouraging you to spend time searching for the perfect reference and amassing boards with so many pins you can hardly revisit them all.
He said I couldn't look into the sun.
Artists steal all the time. They steal from other artists, from photos, from life. They constantly refer to and take inspiration from many sources. I think Pinterest is one of the most efficient ways to expose yourself to these sources. I never think it's wrong to use reference, and if anything, I'm a victim of overusing references a lot of the time, but I do believe that the goal of most creative endeavors is to be original. After all, to be creative is to create something new that hasn't been done before. Art allows for a unique subjective expression that's more individualistic than just capturing what's already existing. According to the book Creative Illustration by Andrew Loomis, quote, "Drawing for mere duplication has little point to it. You may do it better with your camera. Drawing as a means of expression is the justification of art over photography," unquote. If the point of creativity is to be original, then the infinite examples of references found on Pinterest can actually be counterproductive in certain situations. There are lots of people who will tell you that you should use whatever references you want to help you learn, but when you rely too much on references, I have in the past, it can stifle creativity by changing your mindset from that of organic expression to that of technical precision and observational duplication. This can come as a byproduct of the passive consumption-oriented focus of Pinterest, as with too much content and stimulation comes a natural tendency to replicate what's popular rather than giving your brain breathing room to generate inspiration organically. Additionally, this is the reason why you'll often see multiple artworks from different people that use the same popular reference. It's not uncommon that I'll see an artist post something on Instagram, or I'll come across an artwork on Pinterest and I can instantly recognize what reference it's from because of how often I've seen the same pose or image. Sometimes I'll even have the same pin saved to my own board, and this loss of unique individuality is inevitable from an app that pushes the same popular aesthetics and is flooded with reposts. This isn't necessarily always a bad thing, and there's definitely still tons of variety, but it can funnel a lot of beginner artists into repeating copies of the same references instead of their own unique creative ideas. On the topic of references, a lot of references on Pinterest aren't high quality, and without quality references, the foundation for accurate representation crumbles. Of course, I'm talking about the rampant AI-generated imagery that's infested the app. Many other creators like Sam Does Arts have covered this in detail, and it's a large reason why many artists have critiqued Pinterest. Regardless of the ethical atrocity of stealing real artist training data to mass-produce and distribute effortless, soulless slop, the sheer amount of AI images on Pinterest also provide unoriginal, uncreative references that aren't even made by real people. If someone were to use these as reference, their artwork would turn out looking similarly soulless, not to mention the anatomical and lighting inaccuracies that plague AI art. AI cannot truly be creative or expressive in the way that a human can, and therefore any attempts to reference AI art is going to be creatively bottlenecked. If what you consume on Pinterest is meant to make you more creative and productive, the fact that half the work on there is AI accomplishes neither.
I remember his hands and the way the mountains look.
At the end of the day, the problem isn't in Pinterest itself or any other social media. It's in replacing the actual act of creating with a feeling of being productive without actually being productive. Fantasizing about finding the perfect inspiration can often be counterproductive, and the fact is, there is no perfect reference. As they say, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, the second best time is now. Likewise, the best time to create something is now. No matter how many pins you hoard, no amount of consumption can replace creation. No matter how large you expand your visual library, it means little unless you take the time to read it and apply it. If you use Pinterest, I'm not saying you should stop and delete it because it's a powerful tool, but make sure to spend more time creating than scrolling to ensure you don't fall into the trap of productive consumption. I usually don't do these post-credits end segments, but I wanted to make one for this video since it's kind of different from the content I usually make. I know this video is pretty short compared to my usual video essays, as well as targeting a more niche audience and being less academic. I kind of wanted to make a shorter, less formal video that was less informational and more opinionated, so if you want, you can let me know in the comments which video essay style you guys prefer. At the end of the day though, I make these videos mainly as passion projects for myself, and I like to make videos on topics that I find interesting or personally impactful, even if it's for a narrower audience. I wanted to share in case other artists may also find this interesting or useful, even if it's something new compared to what I usually do. So if you did find it interesting, feel free to drop a like, and if you didn't, then you probably wouldn't have even made it this far into the video. Or if you disagree with my points, feel free to comment your thoughts. Anyway, yeah, that's it.